A new Freedom of Information request put in by the Good Law Project has revealed what I and countless other human rights defenders have known for years, that the actions of the UK anti-trans movement, enabled by our government, has contributed to an environment in which the number of trans children who were killed by suicide has quadrupled. This not only silences the fascist collaborators who have spent years trying to stop all discussion on the measurable harm caused by the Bell v Tavistock ruling, but also the UK government's attempts to cover up said entirely unnecessary deaths via the Lewis Appleby report, efforts turned to as they chose to bring back and maintain those very same conditions, first under the Tories and then Labour. Just a heads up, I will be talking about a number of heavy topics, including transmisia, child abuse, medical abuse, and suicide. If our work has helped you, please consider supporting us via Patreon so that I can keep the channel running. You can also help us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. Hi there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and today we remember the fallen. The children taken from us before they ever had a chance to be their true selves. Now, we've covered the state-enacted murder of 16 trans youth on the NHS waitlist, who we took to courting the Tavistock 16, extensively on this channel. We cover the facts that not one but two separate NHS whistleblowers stepped forward to confirm that, in the 3 years following the Bell v Tavistock ruling, which halted gender-affirming care for children in the UK, most importantly, fully reversible and clinically safe puberty blockers, 16 children on their waitlist took their own lives. A marked increase from the one child who had taken their life in the entire 7-year period prior to said ruling. So we went from an average of 0.14 deaths a year to 5.33 deaths a year. That's a whopping 38 times increase. We then covered the review of suicides and gender dysphoria at the Tavistock Portman NHS Foundation Trust independent report, better known as the Appleby report. We went over how parents of some of the trans children killed by the UK government came forward about the facts that, in spite of explicitly tethering their child's suicide to said denial of care, their data was excluded from the report without justification, all to defend the latest puberty blocker ban brought in by the Tories and upheld under Labour, a ban which was justified via the entirely pseudoscientific Cass review. And so, for a year and a half now, Appleby's report has been used to deny said crimes, to pretend like the court case, brought forward by the gender critical movement, was not responsible for the state-sanctioned murder of trans youth. And yet, the Good Law Project kept at it, refusing to give in as they continue to send out Freedom of Information requests, even as Wes Streeting did everything in his power to stop them. They kept at it, and, as of the 7th of February 2026, they succeeded in breaking through, at least in part, getting data of the total number of recorded suicides in England by trans children under the age of 18 from 2019 to 2023. Taking from their press release, quote, "The Good Law Project can confirm that in 2021 to 2022, suicides of trans children in England surged to 22, a marked increase from the 5 and 4 the previous 2 years. This spike follows the decision by NHS England to pull down the shutters on gender-affirming healthcare for trans people following detransitioner Kira Bell's case against the Tavistock. The judgment was overturned and heavily criticised in the Court of Appeal following an intervention by Good Law Project. But, under heavy political pressure from the Conservatives and now Streeting, NHS England never again raised the shutters." End quote. Just to be clear, by 2021 to 2022, it doesn't mean the full calendar years for both, it means 1 year starting in 2021 and ending in 2022. Going over things year by year, there were 5 deaths in 2019 to 20, 4 the next year, the 22 the year after that, following the court case, and 10 the year after that. So it quadrupled for the year immediately following the Bell v Tavistock ruling, before coming back down, yet still remained twice as high as what it had been before the ruling. That is the environment created by the gender-critical movement. It also needs to be noted that the National Child Mortality Database, who is responsible for these statistics, told the Good Law Project that, quote, "The numbers reported in more recent years will likely be underestimated due to a higher proportion of child death reviews that have not yet been completed." End quote. On top of that, we also have to account for the fact that the state has now shown an active role in suppressing said statistics, doing whatever it can to reduce said numbers on paper. And the easiest way for it to do that is to erase the trans status of its victims, potentially by restricting the definition of a trans person to exclude the vast majority of us. The Good Law Project then goes on to discuss the Appleby report, stating plainly that, quote, 42 of these deaths were within the time frame analysed for the government report by Professor Lewis Appleby on suicides and gender dysphoria. That's almost 4 times more than the number accounted for by the Appleby report, which stated that only 12 young people, over and under 18, who were current or former patients of the Tavistock, took their own lives from 2018 to 2024. End quote. Clearly noting the huge discrepancy between said statistics and the report. This then led the Good Law Project to add that, quote, "We are appalled that Streeting commissioned and published a report to reassure the public that there was no significant rise in suicide rates when 22 children took their own lives in a single year, 2021 to 22. End quote. This is the horror trans children are facing in the UK right now. Not merely a government denying them essential healthcare on the whims of anti-trans bigots, the ghouls which make up the gender-critical movement, but then seeks to actively erase said state murder. This is genocide. This is the deliberate extermination of a group of people, specifically children, in an attempt to ensure that they cease to exist as a whole. That trans youth never grow up to become trans adults. That is why the Tories introduced a new puberty ban based on the entirely pseudoscientific Cass review, in spite of these deaths being common knowledge by those within the field, as revealed by the whistleblowers. That is why Wes Streeting has done all he can to uphold said child murdering policy. This was not an act of ignorance. This is clear intent. Actions which add to the pool of evidence which the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention and Human Security have officially acknowledged as, quote, evidence of genocidal intent and actions targeting trans and intersex communities. End quote. Wes Streeting, Hilary Cass, Lewis Appleby, and the rest of the people responsible for this latest ban being brought in and continuing for as long as it has, including heads of the gender-critical movement, they deserve to face justice. The sort of justice genocidal fascists and their collaborators should face. The UK government murdered these children. We've known this for years. That's why they lied to cover it up, and they are still trying to murder more trans children. There is no ground to give here. You either support state-sanctioned child murder, or you stand up to those enacting it. Those are the only 2 options at this point. Though none of this is to say that said children are helpless. As we've covered before, trans children in the UK are fighting back, even in the face of extreme police violence. We have an entire playlist on Trans Kids Deserve Better, a group of trans youth who have taken up the fight in the absence of a society that cares to actually protect them. Though again, they have faced extreme violence from the state. Last year, one group of children were assaulted by police, denied a medical checkup after their arrest, and one child was even denied multiple doses of their heart medication over a 9-hour period. Again, with zero medical checkup, meaning the police did not know the risk involved and most likely hopes them to be fatal. So please, do check out Trans Kids Deserve Better and support them however you can. And if you'd like to support us and what we do here, please consider becoming one of our wonderful patrons who make our work possible. A lot of our videos are being partially demonetized as we refuse to self-censor, engaging in bullshit euphemisms that trivialize the topics we discuss. So we really rely on Patreon to keep us running. You can also make a one-time donation via PayPal or Super Thanks on YouTube. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Flynn, Loombat, Boea, Deborah Goldsmith, Higgins the Seagull, Jackie Sins, Mix Alba, and Peter Cole. And with that, take care, and I'll catch you next time.